All right. Good morning, and thank you for tuning in. Welcome, everyone, to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, a community for tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious. We encourage you to join in live streams and real-world events where we offer a new option for connecting with each other to better your art, develop your skill set, and be with other like-minded people. If you're new to the community, you can find us beaming out nearly every day. We've evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on-demand tattoo and art shows that have been really fun to be a part of. Right now, you're currently watching or listening to the Reinventing Drawing Group with Ricardo Sturdivant. We want to say thank you to everyone for joining in on YouTube or Facebook, and a special thanks to you who are listening to our podcast. Our event schedule and notifications can be found in our official Reinventing the Tattoo community. You can search for and download the Reinventing the Tattoo app that's found in both of your app stores, Apple and Google Play. You can also join us directly at community.reinventingthetattoo.com. All of these network shows, art jams, drawing groups, interviews, panels, webinars can be enjoyed on demand and are stored in our library, as well as our YouTube and podcast channels. There are countless tattoo and art rabbit holes that are perfect for your front room of your studio or to entertain tattoo clients. In fact, we're actually beaming out 4 channels 24/7. If you go to reinventing247.com, you'll find this constant stream, as well as signing up for a goodie bag from Shine Cartridges and Raw Pigments. We also have several weekly shows and drawing groups, including today's every Tuesday at 10 a.m. On Sundays, we have Jason Lesser's Reinventing Drawing Group at 1 p.m. All skill levels are welcome, and they're encouraged to beam in and join the conversation with other artists. Every 9 p.m. on Sundays, we have the Tattoo Weekly, which is a weekly highlight show with myself, Gabe Ripley, and Jake Meeks of the Fireside Tattoo Network. Every Tuesday, same time, you can tune in and watch Ricardo for his drawing group. Wednesdays at noon, we have a Tattoo Now show, and tomorrow's is going to be awesome with Mike DeVries. Thursdays at 12 noon, we have our tattoo collecting podcast. Always something special. Last week, episode number 47, we got to watch and listen to and ask questions to Russ Abbott, which was super cool. Some of the viewers in the chat got to directly ask his questions, which is something that doesn't usually happen if it weren't for opportunities like this. Every Thursday morning at 10 a.m., they also have Kier's special fundamentals class for our subscribers. And apprentices are definitely encouraged to join those. If you're looking for a few ways to support our show, we have a lot of upcoming pro development and on-demand shows, anything from Andre Malcolm, BJ Betts, Bob Tyrell, and many others. All of these educational opportunities can be found at courses.reinventingthetattoo.com. We also want to say thank you to our sponsors. Like I said, this is a free community for you based on their contributions. World Tattoo Events. They are the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. There's lots of stuff updating as conventions are rescheduling like crazy. Thank you to Inkjet Stencils, where you can print stencils from your mobile or computer, saving times, your hands, apprentices' hands. They have webinars and free samples at their website. We also want to say thank you to Raw Pigments, an ink company that is tapping into the source with acrylic-free pigments that have been impressing artists across the globe. You can find them at rawpigments.co or even from one of your favorite suppliers, such as Lucky Supply in the US. Delize Pro, known internationally as Dermalize Pro. Protect your art. If you are using saran wrap, watch some of the videos of tattooers to see what it's all about at dermalizepro.com. Of course, we want to say thank you to Tattoo Now, which is tattoo technology for tattooers. That can be found at tattoonow.com. Of course, the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo, Guy Aitchison. You can find his Biomech Encyclopedia, DVDs, machines, paintings, and all of that at guyaitchison.com. We also have a few affiliates we want to say thank you to. Fireside Tattoo Network. You can find them on YouTube at Fireside Tattoo, The Apprenticeship Diaries, and ecofriendlytattoosupplies.com. We definitely want to touch on our real world events because we'd love to see you in person. This is great, but in person will be awesome. This October 3rd to 6th, we have our BYOB Paradise event. We'll be webcasting shows live and all sorts of seminars. That's definitely something that we encourage you to watch or be a part of. This November 12th to the 14th, we have the Brussels Tattoo Convention, where I will be going, Ricardo, Jason, Kier, Gabe Ivana will be doing seminars, Nick Baxter. This will be incredibly awesome to be a part of. We'll be beaming in an art jam, a subscriber exclusive meetups, and some general ones too. Next May 20th to 22nd, we'll see you guys in Hell City, Columbus. July 8th to 10th, we have the Rock River Tattoo Art Expo. Of course, that is a big venue that's kind of close to where Ricardo and I are, an amazing venue, very easy to get to from anywhere in the world. July 29th to 31st of 2022, Tony Urbanic will have his Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, Ohio, as well as the actual Paradise Tattoo Gathering next October 20th to 23rd. Lastly, I want to say we welcome positive reviews on our channels and would love for you to follow us on YouTube or any other place that you can watch our stuff, such as Spotify. If you'd like to host a Reinventing event or sponsor our community, just send us an email at management@reinventingthetattoo.com. So for now, I'm going to hop into the background. I'll be watching our YouTube channels, our Facebook, and all sorts of stuff. If you guys have any comments, I'd love to know where you're beaming in from. And otherwise, I'm going to kick it off to Ricardo and we'll see him and say hi to everybody. How's it going, Ricardo?
Pretty good, Lauren. How about you?
It's a fantastic day. I'm happy to see you this morning.
Yeah, likewise, man. It is a fantastic day. Any day that we make fantastic is a fantastic day, right?
Yep, so 7 days of the week.
Good. There you go. Exactly.
So today I was going to just kind of do a little introduction. We were focusing on a new topic, I guess, in comparison to the last drawing groups. This is the 6th episode. So I will show off your drawing that we have. That's kind of your cover photo if you want to kind of jump in to introduce that.
Introduce it. Yeah. Basically, I just, provided something pretty simple, straightforward, just to kind of give us an idea and a perception of what we're going to be doing today. We are going to be covering some anatomy. Myself, Guy Etchison, and Kier Franklin are going to be covering some of the basics of anatomy for the next month or so. And I think in September, later in the after this next month, we'll be doing some other things that are kind of involved with it, like an overall project, I believe. But I just wanted to kind of show that in the thumbnail, just to kind of give us an idea of like how simple we really can make such a complex form, or what we anticipate or perceive as like a complex form. So I provided some, small, simple shapes or forms in the thumbnail to be able to give us an idea of the basis of it. But yeah, let's just jump straight into it. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen here. Just give me 1 second. We'll be going over some other artists and stuff like that here in a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about some basics of the 7 elements of art, if you will. That way we can kind of go from there and talk about 3 of the elements that we'll be covering today. Show me there. Okay. So 7 elements of art. Okay. 7 elements of art. 1 is balance. 2 can be pretty simple. Pattern. 3. There's going to be emphasis. Contrast would be this. 7th is kind of 2 of them. So these are the 7 elements of art that we as artists should kind of like start taking into consideration if you haven't. The use of the elements of art and design, line, shape, form, space, value, color, and texture is to create a composition as a whole. So these are some of the things that you want to take into consideration whenever you're trying to look at your drawing and see what is finished. I always struggle with that. And I heard a quote the other day on one of the other shows. I think it was Sunday with Jason Leeser. Somebody quoted an artist saying that paintings and drawings are never really finished. They're kind of abandoned, and it made me kind of laugh because I feel that entirely. Um, but these are basically the elements of art and design and the tools of visual artists. So today what we're going to be focusing on is going to be balance. We're going to be focusing on emphasis, and we'll be focusing on movement and unity. So a lot of people are always talking about how hard it is to make faces, people, things of that nature. But like I've said before in my past classes, some of the most, what as we perceive the most structurally hard things to replicate are a lot of the times because we associate translation with them. What I mean by that is like whenever we're trying to draw a human face, we're so used to looking at other people when they're speaking to us, when we're listening and interpreting what it is that they're telling us, whether that's emotional or instructional. When we sit down to draw that, we are automatically kind of associating that idea with the drawing. Instead, what I like to try to do is perceive things in the simplest way that I possibly can. Shape, value, silhouette, things of shapes and forms that make up these complex images. So what we're going to be doing today is focusing on the torso. And I left a couple of these open so I can show you guys what I do to approach my drawings, first of all. You can see there it's titled Class Demo. So what I like to do is anytime I look at these images, the first thing you see is this woman's shape, this woman standing there. How am I going to draw that? Where do I even start? How do I even go about doing this? Well, what I've learned in a lot of the live drawings that I've done in different artist classes is the importance of being able to squint our eyes at an image to kind of eliminate all these details and things like that that might be daunting to us right off the gate. So I'll show you guys a simple trick. We're going to go to the Gaussian blur, and we're going to start just blurring out this image. Now you can see how that starts to become more of just a blobbish kind of mold almost. Like, what is it that I'm really looking at? One of the other things that I'll do for this demonstration, blur a little bit more. A little bit. We will take out the color. And as you see, once you start taking the color out of it, it's becoming more and more of a simple shape. What this is allowing us to do is relax our eyes, relax our mind, relax the fact that it is that we're looking at this human shape that we're so used to interpreting daily without even thinking about it. And it becomes the issue of being able to draw it. Once we eliminate that possibility, that idea behind it, it becomes a lot easier to have an attainable drawing. So I've broken down 3 simple values over here to the left for us, so we can keep it pretty easy. Now, one of the things that I always do, and I suggest that it'd be nice for you guys to explore this venue, is in these Procreate sets, there's a flat brush in the painting category right here. So I like to draw things with flat brushes. Turn on the opacity a little bit. And what I do, and the reason I do this is because it already helps me establish some of the values that we're going to be looking for in an overall finished picture. So we'll make this guy just a little bit. There we go. One thing we'll do real quick. I'm going to find a center line as far as the way gravity works on this woman's body. And we're also going to be paying attention to some of the movement and some of the key areas that we'll be paying attention to help us establish proportions and some movement in the overall shape. I always just start off my lightest shade. You can see how it overlaps itself. That's totally fine. What I'm doing this whole time is I'm paying attention to the same amount of movement that I have established as some of my anchor points. It's a little bit darker so you can see it a little bit better. And all the while, I forgot to mention the magic formula, which is triangles. Now, what this helps us do is it helps us establish a simple shape for us to observe and help with the establishment of this form. And I said it last week, I think, when I was down in Florida with Tier and Bruno. Children, when they're in school, elementary school especially, when you're walking up and down the hallways, you will always see magical little drawings, these magical little paintings that everybody has. And what happens is we are taught at a very young age some simple shapes in observation. And we all know these: circle, triangle, square, rectangle. Sometimes even you're into it, diamonds. But what we've done as children is when we've started realizing that there's a world around us, we start trying to establish what it is that we're seeing. So anytime you see kids' drawings, you're always seeing the use of these simple shapes to establish what it is they perceive as their homes, as their environment. So it's innate in us to want to kind of, I don't know, observe and relate to our environment, our circumstances, things that help define us as people, as our lives, as our family, as our relatives. So these are the things that I try to go back on. It's pretty simple. I mean, you can look at those pictures and know right away exactly what it is that that little kid was trying to create. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they're so stoked whenever you're like, oh, look at the house you made. They get all excited about it. Great. Anyways, back to it. I go broad strokes. And as you notice, all I'm doing is paying attention to this fuzzy guy first. Too low. Now what this is doing is this is giving me a flat area for a mid-ground value. What I can do with it afterwards is shorten up my, differentiate the size of my brush, like make a smaller brush size. And I can basically start going in and establishing some of these darker shades of shape that I see. It doesn't have to be clean, it doesn't have to be super edged. But what I'm trying to do is show the importance of breaking ourselves out of this mentality that we as tattoo artists especially have in getting so tied up in the permanence of the strongest form of contrast that there is, which is, as we know it to be, line work. When it comes to drawing charcoals, painting with oils, what we do is, instead of considering that form of contrast, that simple form of contrast as line work, what we should start thinking of it as is changing up the definition of it, which is what it's truly meant to be, which is an edge. It's a sharper edge than anything else that we know as tattoo artists, what we perceive as line work. And you can tell I'm not focused too much on the time right now. I just want to kind of show this demo real quick, and we'll go over one more real fast. And I think what we should do is probably, just like I did last night, probably set ourselves up with a little bit of a timer. And we'll give ourselves about a minute for the first drawing, and then we'll start working on some other drawings, giving ourselves a little bit more time incrementally. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the underlying forms that are, of course, will be all established to be in these images. And you can tell it's not super perfect, but I've eliminated that fear, that anxiety, that tightness that we created for ourselves whenever we are sitting down to draw this tattoo, or even apply this tattoo on somebody's body. It's so permanent. We're so stuck on this idea of permanence. But the best part about this is if we want to, we can just kind of erase it. It's no big deal. Or smudge it around a little bit even. You got a smudge tool right here, you can just smudge it. Or you could even liquefy it. Doesn't matter. Do whatever we want to. Break out of this idea of it being so permanent. So let's do just a little bit more here. One. Let's go with this figure there. So you can see here, I've already done the Gaussian blur. And I'm not going to worry about taking the color out of it. I'm not going to worry about making it into a tonal value. I'm just going to kind of focus on a few things with you guys here for a second. One of the things you can do if you want to, and I suggest that if you, I mean, it's helpful, but literally, you know, layers and Procreate is like tracing paper. And if you want to, you can go through and start breaking down some of these simpler shapes over some of these images that you have selected for yourself. But I want you to pay attention when you're tracing these out to get familiar and acclimated with the way the body moves, the way the body is shaped. Sometimes it's good to do this with an idea of proportions, because that's one of the most tricky things about these simple forms that we call figures of the human body. It's just a simple form. But one thing I want you to definitely do and observe is pay attention to these bigger, simple shapes. Now let's take this out real quick. By you looking at that image before, you can associate that these shapes mean that that's that figure we were trying to replicate. So this is mostly not to show that this is a finished image, that this is a finished drawing. This is to help you whenever you do approach these shapes, these human figures. So I'll make one again. Let's start right here. Um, I love Procreate. This is so awesome. Being able to demo this stuff without having to look over my shoulder or something like that. It's just right here. All of us to see. All right, so again, let's do this again. Again, I am paying attention to the way the body moves overall. And that line of gravity. That gives you a sense of volume, a sense of space, and form. Let's do this again.
While we have a little breather moment, I want to say thank you to everyone watching in YouTube and participating in the chat. Hey, Bruno, how's it going? Ricardo, he says that is a very great approach and he found it really helpful.
That's awesome.
Also want to say hi to Jerry and Aaron too.
Hello, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking this out. Cool part. If you guys get a chance to, I highly suggest finding somewhere local. And if you're traveling, try to get something arranged with some other artists that you know to do some of these live drawing sessions. Try to find yourself some models that are comfortable with, you know, basically getting naked. It's so much easier to see the form in its truest sense whenever somebody is not clothed. And find some people that are, you know, pretty cool with being appropriate and everything like that, and just enjoying that opportunity to be able to study the body for what it actually is, these shapes. Again, I'm just focusing on a simple shape. Simple, simple, simple. I don't want to get too involved with any of the details, none of the muscle or anything like that right now, none of it. I'm not focused on any of that stuff. Out of sight, out of mind. Just this simple, simple, blurry blob that we're trying to replicate. What this does too for me is it allows me to come to the conclusion that the drawing might be a little bit more, guys, a little bit more of a finished image. With the tonal value in place. You can already see that I have my light and dark area, and it's starting to help me with the overall shape of form. Again, just no big deal. I also like to listen to some ambient kind of music and stuff like that whenever I'm doing this stuff. I find that it helps me out quite a bit. You can see here where I realized that the shorts in the pelvic area is too high. I'm going to readjust that a little bit. Just go with my existing drawing. It's not a big deal. Stop being so focused on making everything so absolute right away. You keep practicing, you practice enough, this is going to get so simple for you. You're going to be able to just gesturally draw. And be able to get that shape right away. That's because I've been paying attention to what lies underneath this image, which is truly what is really there. We just associate this as a person. All we see is shapes. We put this relationship to it that we've been taught. That's what it is. That's not the case at all. This image is actually what we perceive it to be. No. Or you can start adding a little bit more finer edges. Make sure that some of the proportions are right, which mine are off up here. That's more fortunate. You can see how the basis of that value study helped me get to this point. Well, all right, let's do one more. All right, yeah, let's move this. This is a fun one. This is something that you might see in some composition for a tattoo. The whole pinup style thing. I'm a big fan of. If you guys get a chance, you should check out an artist named Petty. His last name is Petty, Petty, for some of the pinup stuff. And then there's also Vargas. He's great. These guys are classic. And make sure and look up some of their live models that they took photos of to help with the renderings that they ended up coming up with. There's quite a bit that they changed. And that's pretty fun because they start implementing that one of those 7 values, which is emphasis. And that's always a good one to focus on whenever it is you're trying to create, not replicate the subject matter entirely, but to use it as your foundation for your reference. Don't be stuck on the idea of using your reference completely as is. Use it as information. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get this shape in here real quick. And then I want to show you guys another method that I use too. And it's one of the ones that was in its thumbnail. The example was the thumbnail that I provided today. I'll show you a little bit more of a much simpler approach. This one's pretty easy. I find the female form way more expressive than the male's form. So I could be biased. Again, those 3 values are there for us because I want simple, as simple as I possibly can get. Less distractions, the better. The more relaxed we are whenever we're going into this approach, the better. We're shutting off that analytical side of our brain. We're focusing on this abstract kind of idea, which is changing your perception. And I keep relating it to like my better well-being in my life. Even these art terms can be applied in so many different ways to our life in terms of perception and changing the concept around so it makes it a little bit easier for us to approach it life. Approach it as easy as possible. Putting so much stress on it. Easy to do once you practice. And it's even easier to do once you wrap your head around it. So I'm going to exaggerate just a little bit here. This ankle area is always so difficult for me in the feet. I'm always making the feet way bigger than what they should be. I need to practice on. But anyways, so I'll show you real fast again. What I focused on is balance, sensitivity, movement, and most importantly, because I've been expressing this consistently over the past few weeks, simple shapes. As if I really wanted to, I'm going to draw out of my imagination. Another shape is got me stuck. A bit more than the bust, but going with it. All right. So the other thing that I want to show for you guys is let's do this lady. Oh, okay. Better definition. Okay. A much simpler approach and one that's pretty fun. We have in the demo or in the thumbnail that I showed you guys, we have a circle. Ricardo, get is it circle? Where? Now, what happens when we establish a light source for these is that we start to create dimension. And we all observe things in our world in dimensional form. It's what we're trying to replicate whenever we're looking at these structures we recognize as human. What the light source does is that helps us create depth. As it creates cast shadows, it creates the balance of light and dark. And that's what we're trying to replicate. And part of the reason that we get so stressed about it, so exhausted before we even start, or don't even want to pick up the pencil to even attempt to do this, is because we don't realize actually that we know this formula. We know that it's the simplest, most basic introductory level to art that we've been taught or that we observe, and we forget that. So what we can do is start establishing that in our basic approach. See. So again, all we've done is take something super complex, or what we perceive as super complex, and broken it down into these simple shapes, which helps us establish proportion, form, balance. It even establishes rhythm. And then later we'll introduce emphasis to it. Later we'll introduce contrast to it. And then we'll start inviting unity in with the movement. What I mean by that is the way the light hits the form in order to give it that sense of depth with the darkness that's involved with it. So this weird little egg shape for the ribs are in. Now, what this has done for me is it's taken out all of those little microcosmic kind of like involvements with like the different tonal values. And it's let me just make it simple. It's helped my eyes and my mind relax on the idea that I'm not drawing a human form. I'm actually just drawing shapes in the form because of contour lines. Which is pretty fun. Because then we can start making and reintroducing what we've been so familiar with. there's several different approaches. I like both. I like to do a mixture of both. But with more and more practice, especially with charcoals, like the medium of charcoals, and using some of the brushes that I've implemented and using in my technique, it's daunting to get a grasp on some of those materials sometimes, or even applying contrast, not in the form of lines or edges, but more in strokes of that flat brush. But a friend of mine, Jason and Lisa and Bruno and Peter, we've all talked about how learning to paint for me has actually inspired and instigated this kind of technique in all my drawings. I love it. Love it. Change everything. But I'll adapt other things to it though. So I think what I'll do is I'll show you guys real quick the thumbnail that I drew. I'll play the video for it. Let's see here. I'll just kind of show you guys. We'll go over this will kind of show what it was that I've done. Right. There's the drawing that I came up with for this class, or for the introduction for the class anyway. You can see the you can see those simple shapes and how I've related them in all of these images. And you can even see some of these box forms demo here in free play. And how much simpler it makes. I think Brigman, this artist named Brigman, is the one that created this method. I believe that's his name. And here in a little bit, I'll show you this guy named Heinrich that's taken this and really pushed it. He was like one of the guys that I think Disney were pretty much almost stealing his stuff from him. Because I don't think he was ever hired by Disney, but they definitely were influenced by him for sure. Let me see how we can do this real quick. Okay. You can see how I was focusing on line work for these guys. This is all exaggerative drawings. That means that not everything's going to be in the truest proportions. But I wanted to kind of brush up on all of this stuff before I started the class, so I could kind of work through the process and be able to teach the way that I see what I've come to learn. You can see there where I used that the morphing tool and change that dye. And there's one up here, it's the line down there. Excuse me. This is all, like I said, from imagination. It's basically to show what it is that I've been talking about for the past few minutes. There's that geometric sacred tree of life that I like using, and I wanted to use that to show the proportions and the shapes. And this is where I'm using those platonic states. Platonic Solids. So we're going to talk about in one of the later episodes, so we can go over how ambient light can affect the shape as well. That's going to help us establish a little bit more sense of depth and give us a stronger overall finished image too. I'll also show how later how we can try to take some of this anatomy and establish our own our own design, our own finished picture, like a painting almost, or like a finished charcoal rendering. And how I'd like to try to get us to implement that ambient light to kind of create some atmosphere for us. Which some studies, as far as the human form goes, some of the simplest form can be some of those simplest studies can be give you some pretty cool overall images too, as far as the finished picture. So here's this guy, Heinrich Klee. This dude has taken proportions and shapes of bodies and his establishment of lights and darks and really went exaggerative with it. And you can see here how he's taken from his imagination pretty strongly and how he's animated a lot of these animals in like a human kind of form. So we're kind of relating to it, the fact that it's real in our observation of it. It definitely looks animated. You can definitely see some of the influence that it might have had on the earlier Disney pictures, especially these guys like this. He's done a lot of like these alligators that come across in these human forms doing these very human things. I think they're wrestling. The turtles are almost one of my favorites. This is fun because it plays with like the idea of proportion. Yeah, so if you guys get a chance, pick some of his stuff up, just Google him. I think they sell a book of his that might be a limited print. It's really hard to come by as far as the drawings in a book format. If you guys find one and it's easier than I thought it was, then please send me a message and let me know because I'd love to pick one of them up. Look, there's one right there. I'll go find out. I'll have to check it. In stock too. What do you know? I digress. So, hey Lauren, I'm wondering if there's anybody in these in the Zoom rooms that might want to jump in. We can kind of go over some of these ideas, but we'll readdress that here in a little bit. So,
There are some people in the chat that are saying hi. Jerry P was talking about composition of a car. And as a photographer friend he was talking to about some of these topics just recently as well. And he was talking about how framing was a tad off and he knew the term as a Photoshop setting, which he used and saw right away what I meant.
Cool.
This guy, the photographer Jerry said he animated for The Lion King and his classes are really good and definitely recommends it. Also want to say hey to Pig in the Basement. Thanks for joining and everybody else as well.
Absolutely. Hello guys, how's it going? If you guys get a chance, you should definitely jump in on some of the Monday night drawing groups with Guy Aitchison. He started off this anatomy kick that will be on for the next month or so, and last night we studied hands. It was a lot of fun. These are some of the drawings that we've done based off of our own hands, just kind of holding them up and trying to set up so we can draw on the iPad collectively. A lot of good times. So if you guys get a chance, check it out. Definitely join in. Don't be afraid. Come on in, jump on in. And these were my attempts at my hand, which is a lot of fun. But go back to these drawings. Let's see if we can't find the new. Just click one of these. There's a lot of websites you can go to that offer some nude models and an artistic impression. You guys can resource whatever you want to. Any pose, any kind of erotica or regular kind of posing, whatever it is that you want. But I highly suggest to do everything as much as possible, as much as you can. Let's go with this. Up here. I'm just gonna check that quick. And over here. Show this stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys are digging it. Hey Faith, what's up?
What's going on?
How's it going?
Good. It's going good.
Nice. You following along with some of your own drawing?
I'm trying. I'm drawing a value drawing out of my, or a value dragon out of my head.
Nice.
My cat. I'll show it to you.
Is that the one that you were working on the other day? Yeah, killer.
Yeah, but I was doing the line work, and then I just started doing the 3 value thing to see if I could do it. It's turned out better than I thought it was. Thought it would. Like I've never done that before. See it?
Yeah, that's killer. Yeah, it's a good way to approach it. And I see that you got your light source established there too.
Yeah, I'm trying to like just think about the forms and let go a little bit. That's like my theme for the for the month is to stop analyzing everything and just like it's killing me to use the airbrush and not have it be precise. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
But
I do.
I can never get the hang of charcoal. It's probably the whole letting go thing.
Oh yeah.
The mediums that drive me crazy are the ones that I can't control, like watercolor and charcoal and things where they force you. But then at the same time, when I paint, I use big brushes to force myself to. But that's like a controlled looseness. I think I like better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I mean, sorry about the alarm. This is the first Tuesday. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background or not. It's interesting that you bring that up because when I was down in Florida with Bruno and Kier, we did that charcoal collaborative drawing together, and it was fun to experience everybody's emotions about how hard it was to let go of how messy it can be. You know what I mean? And it's not as detailed as you want it right away, and it's not as sharp edge and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's pretty interesting that you bring it up that way. But what would you say like the most nerve-wracking thing, or not nerve-wracking thing, but difficult part of it is to grasp for you? Like, is it just how loose it all is, or are you trying to make it as finished as possible right away?
I think I don't know. I have like a hyper attention to detail. But I mean, I've never had this kind of class or training or anything. So for me, it was mostly self-taught. So it was like kind of just you've handed a bag of charcoal and you're like, go. You know what I mean? Or you're handed. So some of the looser, more free mediums were harder. But so I'm just trying to pick up what I can. I got to tattoo this dragon in like 2 days. Otherwise, I have drawing forms on that you're drawing. I'm just trying to, but anything I can run with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I'm actually glad that you're doing that because it's a good opportunity for us to talk about the fact that like this can be applied to a lot of different things. It's not just the human form. You know what I mean? Anatomy and the basic understanding of anatomy is more or less understanding the way light and shadow hit that form and the relation to itself. You know what I mean? So you can apply that to animals. You can apply it to any kind of natural kind of element that you'd like to, worms, whatever.
I've never done animals. Like I'm just not. That's something I've always been so focused on the human, like on the human, mostly the face, but also the form that I just never like thinking about like fur and like different anatomy. I don't know why. It's almost like I felt like I would have to give up part of human anatomy to study animal anatomy. You know what I mean? Like I'd be taken away. So it's fun to do something like we were talking about how it's like a horse head on a bat wing with a snake body. or something like that. So it's
Yeah.
but it's all just like, I'm surprised how well that went for me.
Mhm.
So all the light theory must have helped.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I would say that that light theory idea definitely helps out a lot whenever it comes to this way of like, drawing with the idea of establishing a form first. You know what I mean? And then keeping those simple shapes in mind whenever you're doing that. It
And
definitely helps out
I
a lot.
remember at one point I was trying to figure out gesture drawings. I don't know if that's exactly the same or if it's
Yeah,
kind
it
of similar
it
thing.
definitely. Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
so like, and I had like a thing of newsprint, and I was just trying to do them in 1 minute as fast as I could,
Yep.
kind of like you were just doing. But I never did them with any kind of value. But that's when I thought I might want to be a cartoonist.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, but I just realism is my wheelhouse. It always comes back there. So it's too out there for me.
Yep.
Um,
It's pretty crazy. Like I had a friend of mine, a tattoo artist, and he was doing a lot of like I wouldn't call it realism, but more neo-trad kind of stuff, I guess, where there's a lot of depth and everything like that to it. And then he went straight traditional. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, man, all this stuff is like really great, like it's so solid. It's so like there's a lot of form and functionality to it, and it looks cool as hell from far away. Like it's great. It's like, man, have you ever tried to draw something so flat after you've learned all these other things about dimension and depth and value and everything like that? I was like, yeah, it's hard. I don't think I can do it very well.
Guys, we
But
have
yeah,
a comment
that's
coming in, and I just want to say the best comment I've heard from Jerry today. He said, Instagirls have a legit purpose. I have a whole reference folder of great poses. He's awesome.
awesome.
And then I want to
Yeah.
touch on Pig in the Basement says, funny how I'm suffering from the opposite, commenting from before. All good with charcoal and debating with Procreate to have the same control. Ricardo, what's your perspective on that?
I actually think that it's very similar. The coolest part about it, the way that I approach charcoals is I go in with the lightest value that I can. I kind of create a mid-tone for the entire canvas area that I'm going to be using. And I'll literally take my gum eraser and just kind of erase out the highlights and stuff like that, which helps create those shapes and that form. There's no real difference between using the Procreate brushes and using charcoals, to be honest with you. I found that. It's pretty fun to do, and it's really impermanent, so like give it a go. I would suggest trying it out. It's great. If you want to reach out to me, we can do some demos and stuff together too if you'd like to. That'd be a lot of fun. And I can kind of show you. But I always do, like I said, that flat brush in your painting brush set in Procreate. I think it comes with Procreate. It's just like the painting category. Flat brush is where it's at. I love it. They do have charcoals in there. Those kind of work out pretty well, but as far as the textual value, you can add other papers and stuff like that, other filters and stuff like that to kind of give you that textual value that you might see in real paper with real charcoals and stuff. But I haven't seen too much of a difference, man. I suggest it, especially if you're comfortable with charcoals already. Just approach it the way you would your charcoals. Honestly, you can mess with the opacity. I don't really mess with the opacity too much unless I'm just sketching. That just helps my process a little bit faster through with the Procreate app. But other than that, man, it's really simple. Give it a go. And I dig it.
Yeah, for me, I
you?
found animals a lot easier than people.
Okay.
That's why I was so happy about this class happening.
Okay. Killer, man. The cool part about it is that like once you start, if you found animals a lot easier, just try to apply the same methods to your animals that you would the human form. You know what I mean? There's some structural differences for sure, like as far as the
Right.
balance of weight and distribution of like, muscle mass and stuff like that. But honestly, if you're approaching it with those simple shapes at first, with the wire kind of frame and stuff like that, all those things can be established people too.
And see, that's what I have the trouble with. Like, I'm notorious. I want to go in detail right off the bat.
Yep. We as tattoo artists especially, as tattoo artists, especially, we've developed this keen eye for detail. You know, we've even learned over time that you can't be sitting on your tattoo this close, cramming in all this detail everywhere, because then when you sit back and look at it, it's just a, you know, blob. So you have to focus on the shapes and the values first, for sure.
Right.
That'll help you out a lot, man.
Especially the way we were discussing yesterday about the light touching different forms. That was really helpful. I'm notorious. I'll throw 2 or 3 light sources into something instead of one.
Yep. Yeah, I can understand that. Believe me, because I think we all suffer from it. We try to replicate what it is that we see, and we get so confused with all those different light sources and stuff like that. It's always good when you're starting to establish this this concept and you're starting to practice. Yeah, you know, you want to go with more of a direct light source for sure. Keep it simple first, man.
Yeah, that's what Jason and I were discussing about that last thing I asked him to critique for me. It was like, yeah, simplify it with your light source, break it down this way, you'll be happier with it.
Yep. Yep. And it's always good to, you know, draw from life as much as possible. Every chance you get. If you're sitting down, if you get a chance, man, you know, you get 20, 30-minute break, dude, go outside. If there's a busy spot around your shop or around your house, just go sit out there with a you know, sketch pad or your iPad. It makes it way easier. That's the reason I like using the iPad so much these days, is because it just, I have all my painting equipment inside of it. I have all my charcoals inside of it. I have my sketch pad inside of it. It's like, it's all there, you know, it's digital. It's convenient, but it is always awesome. Sorry? Just tattoo with it. Yeah, they're working on that. They're working on that. I don't know if you've seen that commercial, man. It's crazy, dude. Like that robotic extension. It's gonna be nuts, dude.
Yeah.
It's gonna be nuts. We're gonna see you know, the T100 rolling through the door here pretty soon, before we even realize it. But no, yeah, I dig it. Yeah, so you want to focus on that one light source. Later on in this series that we're going to be discussing some ambient occlusion, and we'll be discussing like the terminator edge and how important that is in defining some of that muscle tissue and stuff like that. We haven't even started getting into like overlapping shapes either, especially when it comes to the human form. You know, that's one of the things that we'll dissect, we'll go into, and like I said, that's the reason I was including those platonic states inside of those quick renderings of the human form, because it's important to kind of understand those in a sense, so you can start including that ambient occlusion, that the ambient light source, and how it wraps around different facets of faces on the human form.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Kind of like the idea of a 12-sided die almost. I don't know if you guys ever. I never really played Dungeons and Dragons, but I know that that's from that game. I think I saw it in Futurama. So, but yeah, that's about it, man. What are you working on today, Atomic?
Thus far, nothing. Just made it in. Just about to start playing with that little biomech guy going in that other armpit.
Oh, right on. Armpits, huh? I've only tattooed one armpit the entire time I've tattooed. That's been 23 years, so it's pretty fun. It was pretty fun. Took the ink like quick. Yeah.
Hey, Ricardo, Pig on the Basement in the chat says, big up, man. Never thought about adding texture on the background to stimulate paper. Definitely going to try that.
Oh, cool. Glad you dig it. Yeah, there's a bunch of filters and stuff like that you can buy online. I think you can find them. Man, where did I buy mine? You can find them anywhere online. Pick them up. You lay it down as the base, that base layer. What is that layer called? The background color. And I think you just draw on top of it, and it catches all the little nuances that you would in reality or in analog form. But thanks, man. I'm glad it helps out.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that's you know, we can go over a drawing real fast like that, but I think what I might do is try to figure something out for next week, so we can all kind of jump in together and set a timer of some sort. And Lauren, maybe you and I can discuss that a little bit later and, you know, kind of collaborate on how to get everybody included in it. And it'd be fun to see everybody kind of working together at the same time, like a classroom, virtual classroom. But maybe that'll get everybody a little bit more time to prep too. Give us a little bit more time to situate our appointments and everything like that. But yeah, I think that's about it. That's really all that I have for this first class. How are you guys feeling about everything?
Very well. I'm excited.
Good, man. Good.
Yeah, for
If you
sure.
guys-
Especially the way you showed the simplification of like the torso forms. That was really informative.
Good deal, man. I'm glad to hear that.
I have a lot of trouble, especially like when you have a pose that's twisted that my mind doesn't want to simplify it correctly. Like we were talking before, I like doing that tube shape.
Yeah. The tube thing works, you know what I mean? You just got to think about it as a straw. Like if you twist it, what happens with it?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was using. Have you used any of Tattoo Smart's little brush sets like the Essentials one?
I haven't.
So it's got a lot of little, like the globe, but it's just the lines. It's got a lot of
It's like
little, like the tubes, but it's just the lines.
Okay. So it's got like a
the way
wireframe to it.
that with pressure you can kind of, I'm on the wrong brush, but with pressure you can kind of change the variance of how things go, coming forward, enlarging, darkening. They've been a lot of help
Right on.
as far
Right
as
on.
me seeing framework.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, structurally, man, whatever works, you know what I mean? Whatever helps you wrap your head around that idea of like that dimensional form. Like, you know, we constantly take a 2D image and are manipulating the person's eye into believing that it's a dimensional form on top of a 2D image. You know what I mean? Even when we do our
Right.
tattoos, those might be on a form of some sort, but ultimately that one panel is going to be that flat dimensional 2D space.
Right.
And we see form. We perceive our world in form and depth. You know what I mean? And what we do is manipulate the eye to kind of create that concept. So we're tricking people into believing that that's what it is. You know, it's pretty incredible. It's a pretty cool concept when you think about it. Like the fact that we can almost.
You know,
make
when I
magic
was
happen.
asking you yesterday about the sand and how you got those divides in the front of the broken. So our owner, ended up doing this like stairway to heaven where he had those little like splits in it the same way you did on this. My God, I wish I had a picture of it to show you.
Cool, man.
I was just
You
like,
get a-
oh, Ricardo would love this.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah. If you ever see stuff like that, man, go ahead and message it to me. You know what I mean? I'd love to start a dialogue and a conversation about all of it. You know, that's great.
Definitely. I'm trying to get them in on it too. That's E there.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Good morning.
We got Joker hiding back here somewhere. He went outside to smoke.
Right on. Yeah. The more the merrier, man. You know, if you guys
Oh, yeah,
you can get
for
them
sure.
joining in some classes and stuff, that's great. Something on the RIT.
Yeah, for sure. I've been trying to push everybody too. I know one of the other newer artists and I were both talking about kind of sitting down and trying to make like a whole shop thing of it. Us all getting them.
That'd be awesome, dude. That'd be great,
Yeah,
man.
That'll be 12 deep just right here.
Fantastic, dude. That's great, man. You know, the more concepts and perceptions that we have that we can discuss on such an open forum and in such a welcoming place, dude, the better. You know what I mean? That's growth, dude. It's great. Yeah, you know, like it's always been so hard to kind of find that right niche, the right place where you feel comfortable enough to kind of open up. You know what I mean? I know that this has been it for me for sure. Like,
Oh yeah,
and
for
then,
sure. Me too.
you know, and then subjecting myself to criticism, you know, constructive criticism has been a huge step for me, you know, in my personal life and my artistic life, dude. And I feel like I've grown so much in just a few months that I've been running.
Oh yeah, because I hate hearing people be like, "Oh, it looks so good." Like, no, that's not what I want to hear. Tell me, you know, how I can improve.
Yeah, for sure, dude. That's exactly it, man. Yeah, you get used to hearing, "Oh, it looks great," so often that you're like, "Is it? I don't No, if it
Right.
really is, dude,
Like,
like you're not
right.
pointing. Yeah, it can't be that good all the time. Like there's got to be something. Because I know us as our own worst critic, right? We look at
Right.
it and we're like, I don't even want to show it. You know, like I don't even want
Yeah.
people to see it, man. It's terrible.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Speaking of, can
yeah,
I ask your opinion on a little, personal tattoo that I'm wanting to get?
yeah,
So
absolutely, man.
I'm wanting to do pride and truth on my chest. And I'm not sure if I want to go with the pride like this. Like, I like the way he's silhouetted and all dark, but I like
Hmm.
the flow of this one better. Would you say
Okay.
that's fitting the chest piece or, a pectoral, that truth being this one and that pride being this one is probably going to do better sitting together than trying to manipulate him out of this one?
I mean, it depends on how much space on the chest you actually have, I would think. You know what I mean?
My entire upper body is fully open except this. Like, I started covering my
Ah,
legs. That's where I
right
went.
on, right on. So you're thinking like the entire chest panel?
Right.
Yeah, if you were to do the whole front of the chest, man, that's open game. You know what I mean? I think that the way the bottom piece has those little, what is that, like an ink swirl kind of thing?
It's
Pattern that kind of swirls
eyes.
around it.
They're kind of like arms covered in eyes.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That would be cool to do some framework kind of coming from the outward in, like kind of enveloping the whole piece. You can
Wrapping it.
even use like, yeah, yeah, like the back portions of it could be like, the silhouetted areas, and then the foreground can almost come into like actual structural hands with eyes still on them and stuff like that, dude. That'd be pretty
Right.
cool. And you can envelop those two pieces like coming out from the V area here. I think that'd be great, dude. That'd be great. Or you can do it all black and gray, or you can do color.
With this one, I think I'm going to go all black and gray, except in a few of the key eyes that'll be, more toward the front. I want them to have that little bit of red in them, which is very backwards. I was much like Faith. If anything had eyes that were going to be blue. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Right on.
as a
Well, it's
matter
good
of
to
fact,
be.
my last piece was the samurai piece between my belly button and genitals, the samurai mask and hat.
Dang,
Um,
dog.
we've been going back and forth on it, on whether we wanted to do my eyes in it or whether we wanted to like leave them blank. So for right now, they're blank, but I keep going back and forth. I want it to be my eyes just for, inappropriate jokes.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, you know what? It's best to kind of just let yourself out. You know what I mean? Be who you are, man. Don't worry about what other people are thinking, because everybody's always worried about what everybody else is thinking. So there's no
Well,
point
see,
in
it,
worrying about
it
it.
wasn't really the what people might think. It was more of the I wanted to give enough freedom to the artist doing it,
Ah, yeah.
to do her own thing.
Hmm. Well, I mean, if you trust her, and you like her art and stuff like that, man, the best thing to do is just sit down with her and discuss, maybe you guys can kind of talk about what the whole vision on your end was, and then like let her interpret it and kind of discuss with you like what her first reactions are, or if she needs a little bit of time to mull it over, and she might be able to come up with some things that are pretty cool to you. Like I know I just got tattooed by Guy Atchison not that long ago, which is crazy. Thank you. But
Right, the Drake, him and Marcus
yeah,
Lennar.
yeah, there you go, man. Right. But yeah, so we sat down and we talked, we discussed about it, and he listened to me. He heard me out as far as my interpretation of it, the concept was, and he came up with some really cool ideas that I didn't even thought of, like the crystals in the size here. You know what I mean? The water coming out of the mouth and stuff like that is. I loved it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, dude, that's it. Like, let's go for it. And then when he told me his ideas, oh yes, I'm into it. But yeah, but it started from this quote that I've dug for a long time, and he just ran with it, man. It's great. So there's a lot of magic that happens in those moments, dude. I talk about this sometimes whenever you're at conventions and you meet a person for the first time in your entire life. They come up to you, they dig your art enough to be able to discuss this possibility of being tattooed by you, and the concepts that kind of flow in that moment. It's like this magical moment, dude. This like
Oh, for sure.
this kind of holy
Something
thing
that
where you
can
guys
never
can.
be reachieved.
Yeah, yeah, and like there's some really neat nuances that make that even better, and then you put it on them in a permanent, time
Right.
frame. So pretty rocking, dude. So I would say sit down with her and ask her opinion. Tell her what your your overall goal was, and then let her give her your opinion.
And we
Try to
have,
work with her.
and since we work together, we see each other all the time. We go back and forth on, oh, this would look cool. This would look cool. This, it's just one of those things. We sit there and, like you said, constantly critique our own stuff the most.
Yeah.
So
But
us
it's
being
good to get
right
that.
across the hall from each other, we get to see it back and forth all day, every day.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's a good breeding ground for inspiration and growth in those kinds of environments, dude.
Yeah, she's the one I got to do the spider web and the armpit. My first
killer.
armpit. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Rocking. Well,
Ricardo,
I hate to
before we
cut-
wrap up, what can we
Mhm.
expect to see or talk about next week?
Yeah, next week we're going to start getting into a little bit more relation and shape and the overlapping of shapes on the human form. We'll also go into like what Atomic was talking about and what Faith was talking about was applying these to other subject matter, not just a human figure. We'll go over like the relationships between everything that we see around us, and a little bit more study on the way light hits the form, and some angular approaches as far as our edging or our line work to help make these figures a little bit more achievable. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Killer. Lauren, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. You killed it with the presentation today. That looks so clean and solid, man. That was nice transitions. So killer.
For
And
sure.
Atomic,
If I could
Atomic, I want to say hey too. This is the first time I've actually like talked to you.
Yeah, for
good to
sure.
meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Do you mind?
Between you and Gabe, if I could get super glue strong as y'all, I wouldn't have to worry about shit.
It's funny, but yeah. Where are you based out of? For anybody watching who is unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Marietta, Georgia. I'm out of Ink Paradise. We're a suburb of Atlanta. I'm literally 5 minutes from the Atlanta line.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. That is awesome. It's nice down there.
Yeah, I love it.
hmm Yeah, man. Thanks for jumping in today. And Faith, I think she might have jumped
Almost
off soon. But yeah, it's great to see you on Sundays, man. I'm glad that you could join us today too, dude. I can't thank you enough, man. And thank you for the
It's a
compliments.
struggle. I barely woke up in time to rush to make the last little minute.
That's awesome.
I'm an insomniac.
Yeah. Oh yeah, really? That's been going around lately. Lots of work to do. If there were like what 4 or 5 more hours in a day, it'd be awesome, right?
Right.
Mhm.
They just like steadily grow to each day.
Right, exactly. That or we just don't need sleep. That'd be awesome too. I hate sleeping. I mean, I need it, but I hate it.
Right.
Sucks.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Tell me about it. But
I wanted to show you this too. I just was playing around yesterday. I was like,
Oh, cool. Let me see if I can't highlight it. Hang on 1 second. All right, there we
I've
go.
been really excited to do it, and I've had a couple people act like they want it, but then never come through on it.
Right.
Yeah, here it is, putting it out in the universe.
There you go, man. There you go. You know, it might be pretty cool too, is if you're that, that's a really solid idea. It's a really solid design. It might be cool to kind of put a little bit more angle on it too, like keep the flowers kind of vertical and bring the knife down just a little bit more. Maybe play around with some leaves and stuff like that around it too, but
to kind of cut the straight lineness of it out.
exactly. And what might help out too is making the knife just a little bit wider, so you can see a little bit more of that rose and stuff like that in there, because it looks killer. It's a really cool concept. And it'd be fun to see that black with that red and stuff like that in there, man. I always like it
That's
whenever
what
you
I
see
was
that color,
thinking.
like a strong contrast kind of thing, right? So that's awesome,
Right.
dude. Yeah, play around with it, man. See what you think. It looks
For
great.
sure.
Yeah, if any of you guys out there saw that piece, man, you want that thing, let's go for it. Let's get a hold of Atomic and make that happen.
I'll hook you the fuck up for it.
There you go. Gotta stay hungry, right?
Right.
Gotta stay hungry. Yeah, man, for sure, dude. That's awesome.
Nah, I just like to poke people with needles.
See, that's usually people ask me the same thing. Like, you must like just like doing this to people. I was like, no, man, I just like the moment. That's not like I like
Right.
hurting you, dude.
It's that when it all comes together.
Yep, you got it, boss. Well, killer, man.
I
Thank you
much
guys for.
appreciate y'all to see
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome, man. It's always good to see you too, dude. Keep joining, man, because it's a fun time. But yeah, killer, man. Thank you guys for helping make this day a good start, and I'm glad that it seems to be helping some people. Thank you, everybody, for the compliments and the kind words. Join us next week. It's going to be great. And if you guys get a chance on Thursday morning, jump in with Kier. I think we do some I think you just kind of more watch the show for a little bit, and then you might be able to jump in a little bit later. But either way, lots of good information there too. I love the way she explains things in the simplest terms. That way we can, make it a little bit more approachable. Her and I have this discussion quite a bit, and it's always good to feel comfortable with what it is that might be so foreign to us. You know what I mean? But either way, you have to jump in. You gotta start somewhere. So let's apply that to our lives too. Whatever it is that's fearing, that makes us fear things, that whatever it is that's holding us back, jump in, man. Might as well. There's not much to lose. So you're gonna learn something along the way. It's great. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time.